Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. Let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now today's first story, it comes from Middle Dull from the RelationshipAdvice subreddit and says, my boyfriend told me I was prettier before. So I met my boyfriend when I was blonde. No, I'm not naturally blonde, but I bleached it and had it for over a year. I had to cut what was once long brunette hair because it became too damaged after I started bleaching it. My blonde hair was too much to handle as I started experiencing hair loss and had to go back to my natural color in order to let it heal. That's when I decided to never dye my hair again. However, I was met with comments such as, bleach it again, it looked better before, and I've never felt worse about myself. The one that really got to me was, can I tell you something honestly? You look better before. Everyone liked you more when you were blonde. Get over it and bleach it again. The person who said it was my boyfriend. I was stunned and didn't know what to say or do. I was really insecure about my looks just a few years ago, and this had me thinking, does hair color really determine how pretty I am? What should I do? I don't want to be with someone who makes me feel like I have to do something in order to please him or others. I don't want to be with someone who makes me feel insecure. Updates. He said he was just joking. Still seems like a red flag to me. And edit, I just want to clarify. I see nothing wrong with preferences. Obviously, everyone has preferences and it's a normal thing. What bothers me is the way he said it. Even though it could have been prevented with a simple, I think it looked better blonde, but you're pretty nonetheless. But instead what I got was, and I quote, straight from his message, can I tell you something honestly? As a response to an old pic of me where I had blonde hair. You looked better before. Everyone I know liked you more when you were blonde. Get over it. Bleach it and go back to blonde, please. This, I don't think, is an option or preference. It would have been if he said it nicely and I would have no issues with it. Edit 2, I dyed my hair brown a month before we started dating. It's not like I dyed my hair during our relationship. We were friends for over a year before that. This is one of those situations where the saying is, when someone's showing you exactly who you are, believe them. You know, him saying he was joking in that little tiny update there is just absolute bullshit. It's what people do when they're trying to escape accountability. Because what was the joke there? That you're less attractive and everyone else agrees? I mean, how's that funny? And saying that kind of stuff comes across really dark when you think about it, the manipulation behind it, because, you know, he's not just expressing a preference. You know, like OP said, everyone has preferences, but what he's trying to do here by saying everyone liked you better when you was blonde, he's trying to make you feel pressured into it, making you think there's a whole bunch of people that's judging your appearance based on that. So you have to change back to be acceptable to these people again. Let's face it, OP already knows this is wrong. OP already knows that this is a red flag, so hopefully they stick down this path because it 100% is. The commenter says to OP, quoting, he said that he was just joking and said he wasn't joking. He can have preferences about your hair color. He can tell you his preferences, but this, everyone liked you more when you were blonde, get over it and bleach it again, is your huge warning sign about who he really is. I get that you have some really low self-esteem and that causes you to think you can't do better than him, but you can. I promise. Another one quoting the just joking says, is the coward's excuse. He pushed until he saw you were offended, then took a tiny step back. Don't have sex with this guy. He makes you feel insecure and insults your appearance. Bitch. Super Secret Swirl says, sounds like you also need to lose a couple of £100 and dump him. Everyone is allowed to have preferences, but if he is this hurtful and nasty about your frigging hair color, is it even worth it? You don't deserve to be with someone that rude, especially when it's over something causing you real damage. Let him go and find someone who fulfills his fantasy while you go find someone who doesn't ruin your self-image, or because you like having hair that doesn't fall out. Jade Grape says he probably has it in his head that having a blonde girlfriend means something symbolic about himself, like it's an accomplishment. While looks play a part in attraction and romantic chemistry, Your hairstyle shouldn't be a deal breaker for a serious relationship, especially one that is so high maintenance. I bet if you walk him through some quotes from salons, he would be shook. Oh, bae, I was hoping you could say something. I love that you're willing to pay for the upkeep. What a sweet surprise. It's $500 every 3 months. Should we call and get your card on file, or would you rather buy gift cards for the points? And one more commenter who says he sounds extremely controlling with a demand of get over it and bleach it again. That's just not how you talk to your partner. He said he was joking, but that's how guys get out of being held responsible for things that they say. Call him out. It wasn't a joke. Boyfriend, you just don't want me to be angry with you for being an ass to me about my physical appearance. He's very much gaslighting you. You are better than that. I normally don't say break up, but if he's not willing to treat you with love and respect you deserve, I say it's time to end it. So OP did come in with the update and said, so before I proceed, I want to talk more about my reasoning behind my actions and why I decided to do it. For a while now, I felt I had to be the best version of myself in front of my boyfriend. I kept telling it was for myself and that I was the one who wanted to look nice. My skin is breaking out, better cover that up so he doesn't see. Even though I've always avoided wearing makeup during breakouts and never really cared if other people saw it. His comment about my hair bothered me because he disregarded my health and well-being just because he likes it. Again, obviously there's nothing wrong with preferences. I also have preferences and it's completely normal. He has voiced his preferences for blondes before and how he liked my blonde hair, but he never went as far to be this aggressive about it, especially since he knew how much it damaged both me and my hair. That's the thing. I don't want to be with someone who makes me feel insecure. I don't want to sacrifice my health for someone else's preferences when I myself prefer brunette hair. Also, his joke made me think. If I had agreed and said, yes, I will bleach my hair again, would he say he was just joking? No, he wouldn't. I'm not going to go into too much details. I talked to him about it and explained why it bothered me. Talked about my experience with blonde hair and how I was experiencing hair loss. He got defensive and started saying how he was only joking and how I'm making a big deal out of it because, and I quote, you want attention. Yeah, I'd rather be a brunette than bald, and I'd rather have healthy hair than a boyfriend. Overall, I want a healthy relationship where I don't feel like I need to live up to someone's expectations in order to please their preferences and have them stay with me, and sadly, this wasn't that relationship. I broke it off after arguing with him and got called an insecure bitch who only wants compliments and cares about how she looks. And absolutely, OP did the right thing in this situation. I know OP probably didn't see it straight away, but that's a happy ending getting away from that guy. Daddy's Bratty Caddy says good for you for breaking it off. It's okay to voice that they liked how it looked before, but making you feel bad about it is a completely different thing. I dye my hair all the time. Not bleaching because no, and I dye it far enough in between that my hair can heal. And my boyfriend will tell me, oh, I liked it that way, but he still likes and supports me for what I wanted to change it to. Get you someone like that, and if they can't support what you like yourself, then screw them. Idiotic says lol, but wasn't he the one who cared too much about how you looked? You just want to be healthy. I'm proud of you for coming to such a decision and for breaking it off. Look out for bullshit he might tell friends and people you know. Wouldn't surprise me if he tried to lash out because he didn't get his way and got dumped. Tell all the important people in advance and explain your situation, so once he comes crying and bitching, they know it's bullshit. Good luck and lots of love and virtual hugs. They carried on saying, also, your reasons are totally valid. I dyed my hair all kinds of colors like pink and purple and bleached my hair, so the color would look good. Luckily, I found a dye that is not aggressive and long-lasting, but the time before really took a toll on my hair. I don't dye anymore, but only because I hate the fact that after a week or so, you can see my natural hair in my hairline, and I don't have the money to dye it more often. And the final commenter says, let me show you a text I found on Reddit, and let's see if you think about the way he is. A narcissist prayer. That didn't happen, and if it did, it wasn't that bad. And if it was, that's not a big deal. And if it is, that's not my fault. And if it was, I didn't mean it. And if I did, you deserved it. He said he was joking when that hurt you. And when he didn't get what he wanted, he insulted you. You did the right thing by standing your ground and protecting yourself, your health and well-being. I hope you found someone who appreciates and loves you as you are. But now, I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? How would you deal with it if it was you? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. Now this story comes from Arturo's Murphys from the Am I the Arsehole subreddit, saying, "Am I the arsehole for insisting my niece is co-flower girl with my fiance's niece?" And before we do get into it, I do want to give you a trigger warning of ableism within the story, so if you do want to skip it, please feel free to do so. Timestamps are always down in the description and the timeline below. Thank you. My fiance and I are planning our wedding. She comes from a large family. She has 5 sisters. Most of them have kids. 4 of her sisters are her bridesmaids. 1 is serving as maid of honor. I come from a smaller family. Just my parents, my sister, and my niece, Bryn. Bryn is 3 years old and pretty much my best pal. I'm her godfather, and I love her to bits. I didn't care when my fiance didn't choose my sister to be a bridesmaid, and likewise, my sister was cool with it. I did feel some sort of way because I have all 4 of my fiance's brother-in-laws in my wedding party, at fiance's request, but ultimately, it's her side of the party. She can do whatever she wants. Then it came time to pick the younger roles in the wedding. Her older nephews are junior groomsmen. The younger is the ring bearer. She only has 1 niece, Aubrey, who's 4. My fiance wants her to be the flower girl. I said that's fine, but I also want Bryn to be one. They can walk down the aisle together. It'll be super cute. Bryn loves playing with Aubrey, so they get along. My fiance says she wants our wedding to be traditional, so there can only be 1 flower girl. I suggested Bryn could hold a sign or something while Aubrey threw flowers. My fiance said no. She can sit with my sister and parents. At this point, I insisted and said Bryn would be flower girl. I texted my sister and asked, and she agreed. My fiance got pissed and said it's my day too. Bryn means a great deal to me, and she'll be in the wedding. My fiance and Aubrey's mum are mad at me, saying I'm stealing Aubrey's spotlight. Am I the arsehole? Is it me, or is the traditional excuse in this just bull? I've seen weddings with multiple flower girls before, and I've never heard of it just being 1 flower girl. It all just feels like it's her wedding, not both of your wedding. You got 4 of her brother-in-law in your wedding party at her request. Your sister got passed over as bridesmaid, and now she seems to be drawing a hard line on this as well. I don't think this is about Aubrey being in the spotlight at all. It's just about your fiance accommodating her own family over yours and your feelings at the same time. You've compromised all the way through this and you're getting nothing back when it's your wedding at the same time. But I also think this opens up a bigger conversation about marriage in general. I mean, if she's going to overrule you at this part when you're not even married yet, what happens when you do get married? Someone says info. Are you two getting premarital counseling to do a general inventory on how you two agree or disagree on other issues? Because I have a sense that if you two did get such counseling, there would be a lot more issues uncovered. Opie says we don't have that planned. Maybe a good idea. Commenter says it's a great idea. Couples before getting married really need to hash out exactly how they feel about things like money, raising kids, how to handle parents when they get older, etc. Sailor Angel says, not the arsehole. Just an observation. Your fiance sees this as her wedding, not our wedding. Honestly, if it were me and I'm maybe way too petty, I would tell her that either Bryn is in as a co-flower girl or none of your fiance's brother-in-laws are groomsmen. Just replace them with friends or co-workers. But again, just an observation. If this is your fiance's reaction, good luck, buddy. Beckdog says for real. She already took over both halves of the bridal party, so the least she can do is give him a co-flower girl. Reddit says not the arsehole. Can you try to talk to your fiance about give and take? Does she not like your sister? Something seems off here, and it may go on in your family life. Opie says she likes my sister, and I know my sister likes her. They're not close but get along. My fiance had some jealousy issues with Bryn. I'm not as close with Aubrey, mainly because we don't see her as much. My fiance also feels I'm too close with Bryn. My sister is a single mum. Her husband passed, and I'm the only male role model in Bryn's life. I go to her ballet recitals, taught her how to ride her trike, babysit her overnight. It never interferes with time with my fiance, but she thinks it's weird. 1-2 replies to that saying she's jealous of a 3-year-old. That's a red flag, OP. I suspect after the wedding she'll feel emboldened to alienate you from spending so much time with your niece. You're an involved uncle, which is wonderful, especially since niece's father is deceased. Your fiancé sees this bond as a threat to her time with you and will want to push Bryn out, especially if you have kids. Carefully think if this relationship should move forward with marriage. So OP did come in with an update and said, okay, wow, did not expect this to blow up the way it did. Thank you to everyone who reached out. This morning, my fiancé and I sat down to talk about the wedding in general. I brought up Bryn and Aubrey. My fiancé just kept parroting, it's tradition, let Aubrey have the spotlight. She shot down compromise after compromise. Aubrey walks first, Bryn blows bubbles or holds a sign, etc. Finally, my fiancé was honest. She doesn't want Bryn in our wedding because Bryn has Down syndrome. She said everyone will be looking at her, taking pity, etc. Turns out it wasn't about a spotlight on Aubrey, but my fucking fiancé. I told her to fuck herself, called her ableist and said don't worry, there won't be a spotlight to steal anymore because there's no wedding. I've left our apartment, staying at my sister's and playing with Bryn. My phone has been blowing up with texts and calls from my fiancé. Magically, she's ready to compromise now. I need time, but am likely done. Y'all were right. Mad Bev says, I have a cousin with Down syndrome and she is the most wonderful kid. And she's brought so much joy to our family. I would absolutely view it as a deal breaker if my future spouse said something like this. I'm so sorry and cannot imagine how heartbreaking this is for you. But I think you made the right decision, and thank God you found out about her true character now before you got married. Meow Mother Trucker says she wants a wedding, not a marriage. Not the arsehole. The update made me gasp and gave me all the ick. First of all, terrible of her to feel like that about any 3-year-old, let alone your niece who you obviously adore. Second of all, it's your wedding too, so for most of the wedding party members to be her side, it's a performance more than anything. Finally, weddings can bring to light differences you never thought were there because for lots of couples, it's the first big event you plan together and have to make tons of decisions and compromises. If you can't compromise on your only niece being a flower girl, do you really think she'd compromise or even just take your opinion into consideration about big life decisions later on? I'm 100% with the OP in this situation. There's no way I'd be able to look at someone like that, saying that the same way again. And her magically ready to compromise at the end there tells you everything. She doesn't regret her views at all. She just regrets getting caught. And if you married her, this would have 100% got worse. Especially once or if you decided to have children. And you sound like an absolutely amazing uncle and godfather at the same time. And although it's an awful situation for OP to be finding this out, I think it's just so good for him in the long run that you find this out now, who she really is, before signing anything legal and joining your lives together like that. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. Now, our next story is from Snails Are Gross. There's a couple of warnings on this story of animal neglect, animal smuggling, and entitlement as well. So if you do want to skip the story, please feel free to do so. Timestamps are always down on the description along the timeline below. Thank you. It's titled Me 20s Female with My Roommate 20s Female and Her Illegal Pet Causing Issues. Hi. Throwaway account because I don't want to confront this issue with my roommate until I know exactly what to say. I currently live in a 3-bedroom apartment which I share with 2 roommates. We're all 20s female, I found online. Our live-in relationship together has been difficult to say the least, and I am mostly just biding my time until my lease is over and I can move out. Unfortunately, I cannot afford to break the lease. One roommate, who I will call Mildred, has caused the most trouble. Be it through just overtly passive-aggressive battle tactics, physically manhandling my pet rabbit, resulting in a $300 vet bill, which she did not pay a cent of, or throwing parties without giving me a lick of notice. I have a rabbit. She has 2 cats. Our 3rd roommate has a dog. She, Mildred, is not great at feeding her cats, and they are rather food aggressive as a result. They frequently started fights with our third roommate's dog in order to get to his food. I'm an animal lover, but I really do feel like our apartment has reached its limit on new animal pals. Unfortunately, it does not seem as if Mildred feels the same way. She has recently ordered a pet giant African land snail off the internet. I don't actually know how she got it here. They're illegal in the United States. How did it get through customs? But she managed to get it here. I didn't actually know about it for the first few months. We work on opposite schedules. I can often go weeks at a time without seeing her, but last week, it just appeared in our living room. Mildred has decided that a snail takes up too much space in her room and has instead moved its tank to the living room. She did this without consulting me and asking if this was okay, which I think is a sign of blatant disrespect. I don't want a snail in my living room, and I would have appreciated it if I had been asked about it. There's the added issue of the fact that it's an illegal animal. My boyfriend is getting his master's in ecology/biology, with a focus on invasive species. So you can imagine how thrilled he is about this invasive, illegal snail staring at us while we try and watch Netflix. He's also voiced concerns about the fact that snails often carry parasites, such as the one that can cause meningitis, and is worried that one of the furry friends in the house may catch one of the parasites and pass it around. One of her cats likes to sleep in my bed. He doesn't want to hang around at my place anymore, and has offered his home as a safe refuge for the bunny until my lease runs out in April. Regardless, I think I'm going to take him up on this because, as I said before, Mildred is not gentle with my poor bunny, and will take him out of his pen without my permission when I'm not home. But there's also the layer of Mildred being an awful pet owner in general. So I know she's not going to take care of this snail, and eventually there will be a disgusting, stinky tank in my living room. What can I do about my situation? How do I approach this without making my living situation unbearably uncomfortable for the next 5 months? Part of me is just hoping that one of her cats eats it out of starvation, but I realize this isn't the best long-term solution. Commenter says to OP, first off, what the hell are all doing with a bunch of pets in a 3-bedroom apartment? My friend lives on a farm and you're one bovine short of matching his animal count. Second, yeah, it is weird. That would be a deal breaker weird. Who wants a giant fucking snail? Mental note that this is the roommate who has already accumulated 2 cats. Let's just say I reckon she'd be owning a few more in her lifetime. Opie says I have no idea. It started with her having 1 cat, then I found my bunny abandoned in a box in our building's lobby. And I'm a sucker for abandoned animals, so I took him in. Then she felt the need to one-up me, so she got another cat. Then our roommate's grandma died and she took in her dog, which I felt was too much, but I didn't feel comfortable saying no since I had brought a bunny into the mix. Although to be fair, he just chills in my room and doesn't bother anyone. Anyway, I'm 99% sure that she has a snail to show off how quirky she is, because otherwise, who would know? Her tattoo of an ice cream sundae and her 2 cats clearly wasn't enough to show off how much of a special snowflake she is. Commodore says less concerned about the animals, although I find it weird. Anyways, this quote couldn't be better put. And says anyway, I'm 99% sure that she has a snail to show off how quirky she is, and went down that path and said, fucking snowflakes being kooky and fun. Anyways, you gotta try and move out and slow fade away from her. Opie says I'm definitely moving out when my lease is up in April. I was considering finding a subletter for a while. There's numerous things I hate about living here. It's not just the illegal snail trafficking. But now I can't even do that anymore because it's like, hey, you want to live somewhere overrun with poorly fed and aggressive cats? If that's not exciting enough for you, what about a snail that can give you meningitis? If so, this is the shithole for you. Anyway, I'm going to call my landlord tomorrow. I'm sure she won't love an illegal snail living in her unit, and see what she can do. And I will also place a call with customs. It's a really nice apartment, so it would be sweet if she got evicted and then someone who's not crazy could come in. When told to report the roommate, Opie said, I'm afraid that she'll be able to figure out that it's me. Our other roommate and her have become BFFs, and it's often the 2 of them ganging up against me in household issues. I'm sure she'd assume that it was either me or my boyfriend, since he's getting a master's in this stuff, and then she'd make my life unpleasant. And when told it seems her friend cannot take care of her snail, Opie says she's 100% going to set it loose when it gets boring, or she will leave it to die in the tank. 50-50 odds. I'm going to report it, I really don't care. My boyfriend just had me read part of a paper he wrote about snail parasites, and I'm too skeeved out and don't want this thing in my home anymore. And I know there's no happy ending for the snail here, which I think I'm the most upset about. The poor guy just wants to slug around and eat lettuce. It's not his fault, he's an illegal immigrant. And then we got a fairly lengthy comment here, which is educational more than anything, but please feel free to skip it. It's just talking about, it's a snail expert basically, letting us know some info. It says, "Hi OP, I'm a snail keeper and I've kept gals in the past. I'm in the UK. Firstly, the fact that she's brought the snail into the US is of course extremely irresponsible and selfish. However, lots of people in this thread are commenting on bacteria and parasites. The only chance of getting parasites or illness from a snail, including the lungworm parasite, is if the snail is eaten without being cooked properly, or if the snail is inappropriately handled without hands being thoroughly washed afterwards, and then touching lips, eyes or nose or food, or if she's going to do something crazy like kissing the snail. Of course, you should absolutely keep the animals away from the snail and its slime due to the risk of them having a lick or trying to eat it. Also, the risk of parasites like lungworm depend on where the snail is from and whether or not it's wild caught. In a snail that's been captive bred and kept in captivity its whole life, the risk of dangerous parasites is extremely low. In a snail that's wild caught, the risk is higher. If possible, try to ensure that she is thoroughly washing her hands after handling the snail or anything in the snail's tank. However, that said, I would really not worry too much about the chances of catching anything as long as the animals aren't allowed direct contact with the snail, or unless you're planning on eating it raw. Additionally, has she kept snails before? They do in fact have fairly specific requirements depending on the species, and too many people think that they can just put them in some dirt and throw the occasional bit of cucumber in the tank. They need an appropriate substrate, correct temperature in their tank, varied diet including occasional protein, access to constant calcium supply, places in the tank to hide, etc. If she's selfish enough to bring a gals into the country illegally, I'd reckon it's a fairly good bet that she's not giving it the correct care either. Finally, even if a snail is kept on its own, if it's sexually mature, there's always a chance it could lay eggs if it's ever been kept with another snail. They can store sperm to fertilize themselves for a long time. This is the reason behind the misconception that they can lay eggs without needing to mate, and unless the substrate is being checked regularly for eggs, there's a possibility that one day there might suddenly be hundreds of tiny baby illegal snails in the tank with it. I wish there was a way for you to find out who illegally sent it to her. Would love to see them, as well as her, reported and in trouble for their selfish, reckless decision. Edited to add, if you choose to report her, the correct people to contact are the USDA, Department of Agriculture. See here for good info, and shared the link. So it was 6 weeks after this that OP came in to the update. Starts off, going to warn you right off the bat that this update is a smidge anticlimactic, but I've been receiving a few messages wanting to know what happened, so here goes. I called my landlord the Monday following the post to explain the situation, and she was awesome about it. She informed me that she does an annual inspection of every apartment in our complex the second week of January, so she'd deal with it then. So I sent my bunny to live with my boyfriend and waited until then. Inspection day rolled around and, shock of all shocks, our landlord stumbled across the illegal snail. She took it and has told me it was dealt with by immigration and evicted all of us from the apartment because having an illegal, potentially parasite-carrying snail in your apartment is not allowed in the lease. Basically, she let us all break the lease with no consequences. If the other two girls were going to contest the lease breaking, she was going to pursue further legal action for having an illegal snail's potential parasites potentially impacting all of the units in the building. I don't know if my landlord really had much of a leg to stand on regarding legal action, but it was enough to scare them out. I don't know where my other two roommates are living right now. I don't really care either. She let me immediately sign back onto the apartment, which is awesome because it's a really killer apartment. Well connected to transit, a 5-minute walk from my favorite restaurant and only a 17-minute walk from my work, etc. My boyfriend moved in with me. My best friend and his girlfriend are moving in February 1st. So we're going to have 2 couples living in a 3-bedroom apartment, which should be pretty okay. This apartment is huge. I cannot overstate its greatness enough. My bunny obviously came back too. We have no plans for further pets. All in all, this worked out great. OP shared a pic of the bunny, but unfortunately it didn't work. I'm so glad that OP was able to get out of that living situation the way it happened, but I just felt flat for the snail by the end of this, to be quite honest, because the reality is what OP said. There's no happy ending for the snail here, which is very likely the case, right? I understand that they're considered an invasive species, but the poor thing was smuggled across borders to be like a quirky accessory for someone who probably wasn't even caring for it properly anyway. So absolutely fuck Mildred in this. She's an absolute arsehole, and whoever the chain is behind that as well, fuck those people too. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? If you've never seen one of those snails before as well, Google giant African snail. Holy shit, the size of those things. But just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the story, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being here, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.